Yo, so thanks to Shirley at the Entertainment Squad, we took a look at The Death of Snow White. This is the new film from Jason Brooks. Right? Jason wrote and directed. He co-wrote it also with Naomi Mechem-Miller. The film is produced by, let us get to that, Cody Newton, Jordan Logan, Eric Michael Kuchmir, Kyrie Jackson, Sharif Ibrahim, Kaylee Fortin, Charles L. Bunce, Randy Brains, Naomi Mechem-Miller, and Jason Brooks. It is executive produced by Sanae Loutsis and associate produced by Michaela Porter. Right, Andrew Scott Bell took care of the music. Cody Newton was on cinematography. We have Jason Brooks, Stephen Carello, and Anthony Farano all taking care of the editing. Right, production design is Brandon Napick. Right, Ginger Van Valkenburg is art direction. Set decoration, we have Jonathan Rose. Jason Brooks, Callie Kinnanen, and Naomi Mechem-Miller were costume design. We've got hair, makeup, and all of that. Amanda Woods, Leanne Wilson, Michelle Munez, Naomi Mechem-Miller, Hannah Krutzinger, Zoe Decker, Alana Cushing, Liam Crouch, and Spencer T. Cox. Right, so our cast. Who was in this Grimm Fairy Tales joint? Right, Snow White is played by Sanae Loutsis. The Evil Queen is played by Chelsea Edmundson. Right, the Prince is played by Tristan Noakes. We have got the Evil Witch, played by Meredith Binder. Pollen is played by Risa Mei. Asta is played by Ali Chapman. Dozer, Jeremy Hallum. Sunny is played by Dillon Moore. Grimwald is played by Michael DeSanto II. Bo is played by Colin Miller. Tiny, played by Eric Pope. The Queen, Snow White's mum, is played by Kelly Tappan. Her dad, played by Tyler McKenna. Huntsman Gunner is played by Jason Brooks. What else? We have Huntsman Kaiser, played by Jonathan Holbrook. Huntsman Beckett, played by Carl Covington. Charles Lawson is Huntsman McQuid. Huntsman Wallace is Thomas Marshall. Huntsman Merrick is played by Jason Reynolds. Brandon Napick is another huntsman. And Hunter Jolgen is also a huntsman. We have got the Prince's friend, Willem, played by Milo Mechem-Miller. His buddy Jacob, played by Christopher Burnside. There's the Snow White's friends, Inga, played by Hayley Stubberfield. Sophia, played by Lydia Pearl Pence. And Yvonne, played by Holland Stool. The Queen's Handmaidens, played by Tabitha Bastine. Amy Delonzo. Leona Britt. Hannah Morrison. Olivia Lorimer. I think that's our main lot of people, I would say. The gist of the story: pursued by her stepmother for eternal beauty, Snow White flees into a terrifying forest and aligns with 7 bloodthirsty dwarves, cold-blooded assassins with a knack for brutal killings. Her spirit is tested in this grim fairy tale. So yeah, it's a retelling of, a classic fairy tale, right? We've had the animated versions, the classic Snow White from Disney. And then we've had live action, plenty of live action. And live action that look at like The Huntsman, right? Maleficent. There's been a lot of delving into this story. And this time Jason decides to take his shot, right? Which is fair play, I think watching it, you can assume that they all had a lot of fun, right? All had a lot of fun making it. And, I don't deny some of the ideas are good. Like the Evil Witch, body modification. We've got, like bathing in blood, just all of this stuff. You kind of go for, a woman who is on this eternal quest to be the most beautifulest, revered person in the land. That all makes so much sense, right? You go, yeah, of course that's what you would do, right? That's the thing. Now, the orchestration of all of that, I think that's where it falls down. Just on like the blood part, right? Blood is, there's no issue, right? A lot of people like gory stuff. I think there's putting a load of blood in for the sake of putting blood in and putting blood in for the story. I think this is more for the sake of, right? And we have instances like you've got a lot of the dwarves are wearing white, right? And some of the other people as well. But when they're fighting and you see this spray of blood, end of the fight, no one's covered in blood, right? If you're wearing white, that shit's gonna stain. You feel me? But no, everyone is looking fresh to death, right? So those things, I think it's the detail when you have certain indie films, right? And there's people that really do a great job with the detail and others that just don't seem to really bother with it. And I think there's times when the story is so good, right? You can, brush a few things off. Here, like the dialogue is not the best, right? The interactions, all of that, they're just not the best. The humor is forced. So you don't buy the interactions, right? Even the interactions between supposed friends, not really talking like they're friends. There needs to be this looseness, this kind of symbiosis. And we don't get that at all between anyone. So when you have that, when the script isn't working, you do notice all the other details, right? And so, yes, the blood, that's a big one. I think there's a moment when they're going through the corridors and the camera is kind of panning back. And I think there was a bit, it was definitely towards the end, which I clearly just was like, oh no, we see this now, right? They're going around the corner and you can see there's no top to the wall. Right, you can see there's no top to the wall. The wall is clearly just it's a wooden set or something. You know what I mean? So it's just those things stand out, right? There's a bit with an attack in the forest, You have two people right next to each other, but you have the attackers only going for one person. And now, there could be a logical reason, but it's just not evident. It's not there. So you're just like, this is bonkers. This makes no sense. And especially when the attackers are coming down on the person, the ferocity would mean the other person is getting hit. But no, doesn't happen. Right? Heads are rolling all over the shop from strikes that either clearly do not land, or they're not of a force or with a weapon that would, decapitate someone like that. There's just these things, and you just like, if you had just worked on this stuff, it would, come off. Now, maybe they're going for like a campy, crazy actioner, right? A bit like the old school Flash Gordon, which is just batshit crazy, right? Or you have things like Starship Troopers, that is kind of satirical, but also it works on other levels, right? So you can, do different things, but here it's not, right? You don't get this thing that is like, oh, I see what they're doing, right? That, oh, it's also saying this, and it's also doing this, and no, unfortunately, that isn't the death of Snow White, right? It is just this one story that falls very flat. It's also one of those ones that puts in nudity, and again, nudity is nudity, whatever, right? But can it make a little sense, right? Like, why are we like the mirror was a weird choice. Usually we just see a face, right? Here they're showing the full body of people, but why are they naked? Like, there's a bit with the evil queen, which you're like, did we need that? Right? It's just these very odd choices that are here. Obviously, it's kind of, you can go, it's kind of playing like an exploitation film, but a lot of exploitation films had stronger scripts than this. They were batshit, they were all over the place, but, it does work on a level. This, I don't know. Things just don't really make sense and add up, which is a shame. It is a shame, because I imagine a lot of work went into this, right? Putting this all together. On some degree, the costumes are fine, right? The huntsmans look creepy. So there are these elements that are like, yeah, that was well done, And as I say, some of the costumes work. It's just when you then do other things, like have people fight in these costumes, and there's no damage, there's no blood, there's no, then you start, questioning it all. And you have music that I feel is just too loud, right? It's distracting from what's on the screen. Now, sometimes you might be like, that's all good, but it's just not helping their cause, But it is what it is, right? They've made a film, they've done their thing, It's now out in the world, so it's kind of up to the viewer on the kind of things you enjoy. I do think this is the second film from Jason Brooks, but maybe if you enjoyed his previous number, right? I think it's Vengeance 2, right? If that you were like, oh, I love that, then yeah, you might want to go check out The Death of Snow White. You know? It's just one of those, right? We had that, there was a film, what was it called? I think it was, there was the Fairy Queen, right, which is one. Now, on some levels, they're very similar. On others, the Fairy Queen was, I think it was a 12 or a PG. So, this is definitely bloodier, right? But, as I said, if you like those kind of things, right, this is essentially kind of a B movie. If that's your fare, you dig that, then people go check out The Death of Snow